Hello everybody, and welcome to Permanent Waves, or part 2 of our Stratovarius discography. Last time we covered the first 10 years of the band's career, ending with them securing a full-time vocalist and releasing Fourth Dimension. Today we move into their golden era in the mid-90s, where they release a series of classic power metal landmarks that are still revered to this day, all the way into their early 2000s. This is going to be a fun ride. Hope you like cosmic energy and lots of guitar solos. This is going to get pretty good. Enjoy. And this is, we reached 1996, and this is where we get Episode. This was my introduction to the band. Episode is, we have a keyboardist, Jens Johansson, join the band. And for those who don't know, he was the keyboardist for Yngwie Malmsteen back in the 80s. And him and Yngwie would duel. And Yngwie is quite the shredder as well. And Johansson could hold his own on keyboards against him. So now we have two band members who can solo like the best of them. And we have two classically trained, capable musicians in the band now for sure. And then the compositions now take on a much more ambitious light. There are more longer, drawn-out tracks on Episode than any album previously. And this isn't really a problem, but this is also kind of why I didn't like this one first time around. Because while you get the 1-2 opening punch of Father Time and Will the Sunrise, and Father Time is still one of my favorite classic Stratovarius songs. Like that riff, that chorus, the song just rips. There's not a bad part of it. And even the highs he hits during the chorus, it's insane. It's insane how good that track is. And even the drums had a heft to them that they didn't have before. They nail the sound with this one. It's so cool to see. But then after that point, especially after track number 5, a lot of the songs are mid-tempo to slow. And I think this is personally a reason why a lot of people don't love Stratovarius' classic albums as a whole and a lot of this band, because they're not always pedal to the metal. And power metal is about full pedal to the metal and gigantic choruses. And you don't get that quite all the way through with this one. So this one's almost more of a prog neoclassical record, which if you listen to it, think with that going in, because I think we discussed this in another discussion maybe. Your mindset going into music or going into any art is so important, because you can quickly color something in a way that you would like, and then now you all of a sudden don't like it. So if you go into this record expecting full throttle 200 BPM for its entire 62-minute length, you're not going to get that.
Yeah, I did notice that after, like you said, Speed of Light. Wow, like we were at the Speed of Light, and now we've like ended. We've come out of Speed of Light. That's it. Like we've like ended Light Speed, and so now they actually get to kind of. I don't want to say like show their chops, but definitely show a different side of them. Like you said, yeah, they hired this new keyboardist, and they start getting a little more Baroque. I like that a lot. This was a really good like welcome surprise for me. I was like, okay, I've been hearing like them do some of this really awesome stuff. Like they've have an identity in these last 4 albums. All of a sudden now I'm hearing like harpsichords or keyboards and Baroque like classical music like further than I had before. I love how it slowed down all of a sudden, and it just like, and the fact that it just ends like with Forever, that might be like one of my favorite tracks of like their entire catalog for Pit's sakes, just because
really?
Like it's I love how slow it is, like how like melodic it is as well. I don't know, I really like it a lot.
Yeah, definitely. And one thing about this one too is it still retains an experimentalness to it, because I mean I touched on a bit how Father Time, when the drums come crashing in, how heavy they sound with the production. There are parts of this record that almost sound doom metal-esque, like the intro to Babylon, where it's just the bass sliding and the drum fills. Yep. It's just, that's how a doom metal song would start, and then you get the eerie Middle Eastern scales.
Oh, it's just,
I think people don't give this one enough credit for how much nuance it has. And I do like I like Forever too, because for the last song musically is really cool, because the rest of the band just completely takes a step back, and it's just Coda Pelto singing with Tolki's orchestration and strings. And it's just, they had a choir and a full orchestra.
Oh my goodness, that's awesome.
So that's where you get all that nuance. This is a really, really ambitious record, and it's a really good one. A bit of patience is required because it's kind of impenetrable, because it's big. It's a big statement. But yeah, this is seen as the beginning of Stratovarius' true golden age.
Yep.
And it's easy to see why. There's a lot of ideas, a lot of ambition, a lot of killer riffs. Speed of Light's one of their most iconic tracks to this day. And I mean, the solos on that, are they the fastest of all time? No, but They're not the most complicated solos ever, but they just sound so good. This is where Tolkien perfected his art, I think, on this record, because it's just, they're catchy. All of his playing is catchy in its own way here, and it's just fantastic.
That track, Speed of Light, I think lives up to its name. Again, not the fastest, but it definitely does, like, you know, feel like you're going at the speed of light when listening to it.
Yeah, and even though, and that's a very good point, not the fastest, there are things after this that would kind of try to be faster than it for the sake of being fast. I mean, the entirety of Dragon Force is in mind. I feel like that Stratovarius were the first to go there, to go that far, to go that hard, that fast. And it just, Speed of Light still got some of the catchiest guitar fills that I can think of in power metal. It's just such a paramount track.
So yeah, for this one, folks, just, you know, you're coming in immediately thinking, oh, this album is gonna be real heavy and real fast, and then not like, you know, post Speed of Light, it's like, oh, what the hey. So please, yeah, not to repeat Johnny there, but like you have to keep an open mind when going to this one, because I think if you keep an open mind and, you know, expect them to go places where you're like, are they really going there? It's like you're gonna have a good time. I enjoyed myself with this one, so definitely like just keep an open mind with this one.
Yes, and this is also with the addition of Johansson, a point where even though Tolkien's getting a lot of the music composition credits, apparently the other members are contributing a lot more as well, and that's why the sound is becoming more nuanced. Which just brings us to what many consider the absolute peak of Stratovarius' discography, and the record I was talking about earlier that is an absolute pain to get a hold of, Visions.
Well, you can see why.
And yeah, this is, and I can attribute that, as far as I can tell, I contribute that to something being some kind of out of print thing with the label at the time, Noise Records. But anyway, this record's worth the hype. Visions is just, it's awesome. It is probably more well-rounded than Episode, if only because Episode felt like the anthems and the experimental songs were kind of split, and there were almost two different ones. Visions, it feels like they're all just, everything is blended together in a really dark, kind of moody, but really, really melodic, really catchy, really virtuosic, really interesting package. But there's almost nothing to not like about this record. It's just that good all the way through. Like, you get right from the first track, Kiss of Judas, you got some really heavy drum beats, a powerful bass line with some heavy riffs coming in. Black Diamond is another one of Stratovarius' most popular tracks, with a great harpsichord use. I'm sure you love that, Isaac.
I do.
Before the Winter, you got some really, really icy sounding synths, really building the atmosphere. Legions is one of my favorite tracks of this area of the band too, because it is that full pedal to the metal, power metal anthem. And then, of course, their first attempt at a big 10-minute epic, Visions, the final track, being also excellent. So there's a lot to like about this one. Not enough good things to say about this, and it's generally considered not only one of their best records, but it came in Loudwire's top power metal records, Metal Hammer's power metal albums essential. It's just a really good record. I can see why everyone thinks it's their absolute zenith.
Yeah, if Episode was them, you know, again, experimenting in this new era, whatever we want to call this era, Visions is literally just like, again, refining and streamlining everything that they had from that last album, and then just like getting it in the, like, just firing on all cylinders, right?
Mm-hmm. And especially this one, like I touched on the heaviness with Episode, but here it's really, really prominent. There's Kiss of Judas' intro for one is quite heavy. For Stratovarius are not what I would consider a heavy band in the grander scope of metal, but they got some heavy moments on this one. Like the 6th track, The Abyss of Your Eyes, is a slower ballad, but when the drums kick in, it's like an explosion. Like, it's quite, I had to replay that intro a few times, and I'm just like, Stratovarius got this heavy? That's awesome. It's great. It has a really otherworldly, fantastical atmosphere. It's dark, it's cosmic. It's an awesome record. Why are you listening to me? Go listen to it. It's great.
Yeah, I guess the album art does the tracks justice.
Yes, and I was going to touch on that too. Thanks for reminding me again. I love it when, as a music fan, especially one who collects records and a lot of physical media, I like it when the album cover feels like it matches the sound. That to me is just like, it just makes it feel like a more complete package, and it feels like the band, a real statement of intent, like the band really knows what they're going for. So yeah, nothing bad to say about Visions. It's a fantastic record. Started like the middle of the band's golden era.
So let's move on to Destiny.
Destiny, yes. Another generally well-received record, ranking as one of their best and one of the better power metal albums of all time. For me, it's It's really good. I don't think it matches the high of even episode, but this one's interesting because it's bookended by two epics. Destiny itself being 10 minutes long and Anthem of the World being just short of that. And it goes without saying both of those tracks are absolutely astounding. Great melodies, great progression, great nuance. Clearly Tolkien knew how to vary the tempo, vary the atmosphere, add melodies, and just slow things down, speed things up right when he had to, because those two tracks are awesome. Everything in between, there's a lot of good tracks on this. There's a lot of fan favorites like 4,000 Rainy Nights and SOS. But this is a record where there are 3 ballads, and it feels like it can start to drag a little bit in the middle because of that, even though there are overall some really strong moments on this one. It just feels like the bookends are a lot stronger than the middle section.
I won't. I don't know if I call it a criticism, but I was surprised when they had Anthem of the World track 9 at spot. No, I was surprised by that. I thought it would be on track 12 instead, where Blackout is. I was because I'm like, oh man, like first I get Destiny, I come in there, it's 10 minutes 15 seconds long. I'm like, oh man, okay, that's a lot. Like, what else do you got? And then you get to go through all the others, like you said, and then in comes Anthem of the World. I'm like, okay, holy smokes, like oh man, like this is all epic and whatnot. But then I don't want to like call it lukewarm or anything like that, or like it fizzled out. But I was like, oh, we're still going with like 3 other tracks. Like, interesting. Okay, I was not expecting that.
Good to know is the title version is actually the 2016 remaster.
It is,
as far as I know, and that includes the bonus tracks. So the original album did actually end at Anthem of the World.
Okay, see.
Cold Winter Nights is a bonus track, and Blackout's actually a Scorpions cover.
Oh,
nothing wrong with that. Who doesn't love Scorpions, right? So the original record did end at Anthem of the World.
Okay, thank goodness.
Sake of this review. Overall, I feel like this is where a lot of the effort was put into Destiny and Anthem of the World, and they are fantastic tracks. Power metal classics. You can't go wrong with either of them. Everything in between is not quite as powerful.
Yeah, no, I don't want to say waning or anything like that. That's definitely not the right word. But do you think they were trying to go for the same flavor that they had with the previous, with Visions potentially? Like they were like, this is Visions Part 2, or is it its own thing?
Possibly. Just the interesting thing to me though is that the slower tracks, even on episode, didn't feel like ballads to me, with the exception of Forever. They felt like just slower, heavier metal tracks. These ones kind of have more of a hit single kind of ballady song structure to them. Like, what you'd expect if you listen to, like, Nothing Else Matters. The structure's more similar to something Bon Jovi would release. So it just felt like a little bit more standard to me, which is surprising considering how kind of above the standard that the other 2 records were.
Yeah, that's a good point to note in that one. So whether like their producer had changed in this one, you probably know this more than I. I'm just like pardon me if I'm just pardon me if I'm pontificating. Whether like this, they were just again experimenting with these like different tracks. I mean, if they're experimenting, it was the same thing with Episode for Pit's sakes, where people weren't really feeling that, but I was like, oh, let's go with this. So it's just like with all the things you were saying, it's like maybe again they were just wanting to try something because they just don't want to be stagnant. They don't want to be the same.
Yeah, and you know what? Once again, I will never fault an artist for experimenting unless it's kind of blatant pandering. But even that's subjective. Without further ado, we can move on from Destiny to Infinite. And if you want to go first with your thoughts on this one, actually.
Yeah, the next record. Okay, so here we go. Here we go. This is a big one with Infinite. When I first listened to it, it definitely, if I recall, when I was listening to it, I was like, this sounds like it is of its time in that like it literally was released in the year 2000. So, Y2K. Yep. And it feels like there's something going on with the lyrics. Obviously, this is me not like looking anything up, but I was like, okay, something's going on here. It's like they're getting a little more, I guess, they've had this, throughout some of their previous tracks and albums where they do like mention certain things about like, either the environment or certain social problems or something like that, bringing those kind of social changes up. But this one definitely felt like they were talking about like the future. Like they were like, this is what the sounds of the future are going to be. It just felt like we don't know what's going to happen in the year 2000, but bless their souls. And whatever that may be, it is the new millennium. like literally the second track. We are here to experience this. Let's go forward and kind of make it our own, or at least let's like, try to be positive about it.
I think you might be onto something there, because this cover art's a lot brighter than what we've seen in quite a while. It's like a cosmic sky with a city in the background and a bunch of dolphins jumping through an infinity loop. So it's a bit dark. It's a bit brighter than what we've seen with the band previously, and I think there's a certain optimism to it as well that other records don't have. The song Mother Gaia with Millennium and acknowledging the turn of the millennium, and the lyrics are a bit more socially conscious. As far as power metal goes, we haven't discussed the lyrics much lately, and that's part of my bad, because lyrics on power metal records tend to be fantastically inspired or just out of this world.
Yes.
So to speak, they're not a huge listening point of the genre unless there's something that you can scream out loud at a concert with your fist in the air, which is absolutely exhilarating, and if you haven't done it, highly recommended.
Aye.
And I think it just becomes more important the further on we go, but onto Infinite itself, this was actually a #1 album in Finland.
Interesting.
On the chart for 9 weeks. They got 2 successful singles in the form of Hunting High and Low, which is one of their most popular songs on Tidal even to this day.
It is.
And A Million Light Years Away. And this is almost, to me, in some ways, a Stratovarius light record, and I have no problem with that. There's a lot of great, well-written songs on this. It doesn't quite have that darkness, but it serves the album just fine. This has some great playing and some huge choruses from Coda Pelto, as we can expect by now. This would be a great record to tour behind, because it just has gigantic, crowd-friendly melodies. I can see why it was on the chart for so long. It's a great, Billboard opening statement. And you were onto something in more ways than one with this one, Isaac, in the sense that it could be kind of the end of what they've been doing as we know it, because this is kind of the end of Stratovarius' classic era. As good as this record is, it's not on the same level as Visions or Episode in terms of adventurousness or just ambition. You can kind of see, especially with the ballads, in my opinion, on Destiny, you can kind of see the band maybe settling into a comfort zone.
Yep.
And for Infinite, it's fine. This is almost what I would say is Stratovarius' Black Album, in a sense, because for what the Black Album was for Metallica, in which they shortened their song lengths down, kind of went down to earth a little bit, this is what that is to Stratovarius for me. Sure, there are 2 tracks that are 8 or 9 minutes in length, but for the most part, this is a very, very digestible record. I think anybody trying to get into the band for the first time, this is a very good place to start.
Yeah, you wouldn't. I don't know, what the answer is for you, but I wonder what their mainstream album, air quotes, would be considered.
Well, it's hard to say here culturally, because metal's obviously not very big in Canada and the mainstream.
Of course. Yeah.
Finland and Sweden, these bands do a lot better. Here, when Sabaton, for example, a Swedish power metal band, when they tour here, they need to play at the Commodore Ballroom, which is a small venue in Vancouver, whereas in Sweden, I hear they can pack arenas.
Oh, makes sense.
And I mean, the fact that Stratovarius got a #1 album in Finland, that should tell you something right there. They would not get a #1 album here.
Certainly not, unfortunately. But I guess, yeah, appealing to the masses or whatnot, or at least, throwing out attempts to, get people from non-metal fans to come in and listen.
Yeah, but at the same time, this was also a platinum record, so it was a very, very good success for the band.
That's hence why I'm wondering if this would be considered their mainstream album.
I think you could. I think that wouldn't be a stretch at all. I would almost call it that. And you know what? It's a damn good one to go into the mainstream with.
Oh, absolutely. I want to stress this enough that mainstream does not mean that they're catering to an outside audience or whatnot.
No.
It does not, and does not belittle them in any way, shape, or form. I was very impressed with the direction they went with this. It doesn't even some of the, again, like I was mentioning before, with how abstract they kind of get, and with the turn of the millennium, doesn't even feel mainstream. Honestly, I'm surprised by that. But I definitely agree with you. This being Stratovarius light.
Yes.
And with the release of Infinite, we mark the end of Stratovarius's 90s golden era. What follows is a series of band drama that almost threatened to derail the group's career completely before they eventually come back and release some of their best material to date. We'll see you guys next time in Stratovarius Part 3. Keep listening. Have a good night.